you can do that. And I'll even discuss my own numbers so that you know what those numbers look like. And it's well above 100K. And that is in 1 year. So as soon as Jaime comes in, we will make sure that, let me go ahead and tag him here. There he is. Here's Jaime. Jaime's coming in now. All right. I wish I could do a countdown for whenever you actually get in, Jaime, but I don't think it lets me do a countdown. That'll be pretty sweet. And then also have walk-in music, so like whatever music you choose, like they do in baseball. Yeah, make sure you're horizontal. There you go. It says connecting. And Jaime's here.
Here we are.
Right. Welcome,
How
Jaime.
is everybody? Did you tell him, Joseph? Did you already tell him what we're gonna do?
I don't. I'm not sure if I did or not.
They're gonna be amazed, man. The things that you were telling me behind the scenes. I think we should have. I should have recorded you right then and there, because
we were rolling pretty good.
Podcast to be over, and I go out and make some money. So we'll let the people in. We'll let the people in on the secrets information.
If you're watching right now, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and let us know where you're tuning in from. And if you've watched our podcast in the past, or watched our show or listened to our podcast. By the way, if you I'll go ahead and plug it now, Jaime, since we usually plug it in the middle and the end. If you would like to, after you watch the show, Jaime or myself can reach out and send you the link to rate our podcast. We greatly appreciate it. And it just helps us continue to do what we're doing. So example today, we're talking about earning an extra 100,000 or extra 6 figures leveraging virtual assistants. And we're going to go into detail about that. Santos, welcome from the 305 Miami or Miami. So Jaime, should we go ahead and you want to tell people where you're from, where your market is, and then I'll tell people where I'm currently located?
Let's hit it. So this is Jaime Resendez, and I am here in Crowley, Texas, just south of Fort Worth. And it is 8-something p.m. at the present time. How about you, Joseph?
Wonderful. It is 9:30 a.m. where I am, and I am in Singapore, and life is pretty good besides the dumpster fire of 2020.
Oh, besides that?
But besides the dumpster fire of 2020, life is pretty good. But real estate is still doing really well in most markets. So that's a blessing to most people, I think, as long as they're continuing to push through and try to get business.
Blazing hot.
Yeah, blazing hot. Blazing hot. It's blue, white. What do they call it? White hot. It's
white hot.
Yeah. So we want to go ahead and jump in, Jaime, and start talking about this particular information that we want to share with people and show them how to scale their business an extra 6 figures using virtual assistants.
Let's hit it.
All right. So go ahead.
You're me.
No, you got it.
Oh man, I feel like I cut you off, man.
Nope,
this is like
did not.
episode 16 and we're still doing this. You know what? It's because we got our producer back, Pat back. So for those that don't know, we've had Pat, our producer, really produce the show, and we hired him back after last week. We let him go, and now he's back. But I'll just attribute it to that. Virtual assistants, we wanted to cover that topic in this particular podcast because there's such a huge opportunity in the space, specifically for real estate. So we're going to talk about some strategies on, when you know it's time to get a virtual assistant, how to find a virtual assistant, how to leverage them to really amplify your time, claim back your time, and not only that, scale a lot more. So Joseph and I, we work well together, but Joseph has a different strategy than I do. Where focus is more in the revenue generator aspect. I focus more on saving some money. So that is that's why we work well together, and we're still going to hold you in suspense of the new project that we've got going on. So we did a soft launch already. So if you've been following us on the social medias, then you already know what I'm alluding to, but our full out launch is going to be here shortly. So stay tuned to that. But back to the task at hand. virtual assistants. This is something that, I guess, Joseph, when would you say it started becoming a little bit more mainstream to where people didn't raise their eyebrows thinking that you were absolutely crazy?
Gosh, man. Well, there's been several guys that have done it over time, right? And they've done a fantastic job with it as far as introducing it to the market. But I would say probably the last 5 years, it's really become one of those things that is, uh, it's it's starting to become more of a think about Facebook and where Facebook ads were 5 years ago. And people were like, I don't know about that. I don't want to spend my money on some platform where people just hang out, right? They're not buying anything. Now we have people who have made billions of dollars. But same thing with virtual assistants. 5 years ago, people were like, I don't want to give my information to somebody that I don't know. I don't know who they are. And now you have people that have had virtual assistants for 5+ years, right? And these virtual assistants have helped them make hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. So I would say, Jaime, to answer your question in short, it's probably really started to take off here in the last 5 years, last couple of years, because people are just attuned to needing an assistant, but not wanting to pay for one in the States, right? And not to say that assistants are bad in the States. It's more of a cost-effective approach until you're ready to have a local assistant.
Awesome. Awesome. So taking one step back, let's get into virtual assistant. So I'll give you my definition of virtual assistant, and then we'll kick it over to you and see where you differ or where you agree. So for me, virtual
Sure.
assistance is basically somebody that is helping you out in your business, in whatever capacity, which we'll actually get into what you can outsource for your business. It's helping you out, but they're not necessarily in the same space. They're not in your office. They're not in your home. They're not really accessible to where you can just call down the hallway and they're there. Now,
Yeah.
prior to COVID, that was it was a little bit more abnormal, but now given the COVID thing, now it seems like everybody's a virtual assistant. But in
Mhm.
summary, virtual assistant, somebody that's not necessarily there with you. It can be somebody that is across state lines, across, as you're saying, across country boundaries, and beyond. So somebody that's not physically there, and you have to work with, well, you don't have to work with them, but you work with them. They're just not in the same area that you're in.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think that's a pretty good definition of virtual assistant. Virtual assistants, in my book, the way I look at it is they can be anywhere in the world, right? Example, I currently have virtual assistants in the Philippines, so it's a very popular place to hire virtual assistants from. Another places from South America. Uh, I think with the advent of tools, now you don't necessarily have to have somebody that is right next to you to be able to call them or text them or yell at them, "Hey, Jaime, what are you doing over there down the hallway?" Right now, it's you have these things like Slack, which allows you to basically text for free anywhere in the world. Right, WhatsApp. So these communication channels that allow you to communicate like if you were down the hallway with somebody, video chat like you were down the hallway with somebody, like with a click of a button, which you couldn't do before, right? So I think whenever we talk about virtual assistants nowadays, virtual assistants are as accessible as your family, right? Like anytime you need to get in touch with them, if you need them to run paperwork or anything, you just click a button. Hey, this is what I need you to do. Do you need any training on it, or do you understand? And that's how I look at a virtual assistant, right?
Perfect, perfect, perfect. So when it comes to virtual assistants, before we get into the meat of the strategies, as we give some people a little bit of time to come on. When it comes to virtual assistants, do you think they're right for every agent?
I don't think they're right for every agent. I think there's a certain level of income and business that you need to be doing, right?
Okay.
Um, it's like when you first start out, you don't think you need a transaction coordinator, right? Because you're like, I'll do all this paperwork. I want to learn it on my own. And there are people who want to do that type of stuff. And then you get through one or two contracts. You're like, why am I doing this by myself if I could just pay somebody on the back end to do it? Same thing with virtual assistants. Once you figure out what you need them to do, and one of the things that we've discussed and one of the things that I've learned over time from other people is you assign things that are mundane, redundant tasks that you do every single day. And once you know what those things are, then you can bring in a virtual assistant to do those things, right? But to start off with as a new agent, it may not be for everyone, but if you have the money to do it and you know the things that you do every single day that help your business grow specifically, money making activities that you can hand off to them, then I think you're ready for a virtual assistant. Also, if you're terrible and you're not willing to learn how to actually create systems and operating processes or procedures, then a virtual assistant is not good for you, because that means you're going to blame them for everything whenever it's actually your fault because you didn't train them on something, right? Even though they may come to you trained on certain things, there are certain things that you may do in your business every day that they don't know how to do. And if you're not willing to train them, you're probably not ready for a virtual assistant.
And that's such a good point. That's such a good point of there's that frustration of, well, you didn't do X, Y, and Z. Well, you didn't share that. You didn't share what you wanted to, only because you thought that that's how it's supposed to be done. You never articulated it. So I'm glad that you brought that point, because that is a big point of contention where, well, I tried a virtual assistant X, Y, and Z times, and they just continue to fumble the ball. Well,
Yeah.
did you train? Well, you know, they said that they knew how to do transaction coordinating. Okay, well, let's dig into that. Let's unpack that a little bit more. Was it in the same state? Was it a same type of did they work in a different type of brokerage that you're in? I mean, there's so many different items, and we're very quick, myself included. And this is coming from a very fresh wound with he'll know exactly what I'm talking about him. So somebody on my team that just did not do what I thought that he should be doing. And so it's a fresh wound, but I have to point at myself at that point. When it comes to having your personal, I guess your personal, how should I say this? Your personal, how you want things to be done, and it's not necessarily going to be the exact way that they are being done unless you share that with them. So it's a great point.
Correct.
To illustrate.
Yeah, very, very much. Yeah, you have to know what you like to be done, and you also have to keep in mind that whenever somebody else is doing it for the first time, they're doing it for the first time, right? A lot of people are like, "You should be a pro at this as soon as you come to me." Nobody's a pro. I mean, you weren't a pro real estate agent whenever you started. Most agents, and they forget that, right? Like, do you forget that you didn't know how to walk at one point in your life, right? Like, these people forget these things, right? I hate teenagers because they listen to loud music. Did you forget you were once a teenager and you listened to loud music, right? Like, these things are, anyway, as we talk about virtual assistants, it's the same thing, right? You got to give them time to warm up to who you are and the way you do things.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your business, Joseph, because I know you're not going to bring it up. So I need to bring this up for you.
Sure.
So you don't like drawing attention to yourself. So I'll draw attention to you.
Yeah, don't.
Folks,
No.
Joseph is, I mean, there's no better person to be talking about virtual assistants, because Joseph has an entire business around this, has a virtual entire team of virtual assistants that he's done pretty much train the trainer, which is, if you've done any type of education or training for people in that setting, it's incredibly difficult to do. So you're not necessarily teaching them to do whatever they're doing for your personal business. Some virtual assistants are designed specifically for you that are helping you maintain the business and grow the business. But at the same time, you have to train them to train others. So you have to train them to either do the work. And so that's incredibly difficult to do. And you've been able to do that at one, incredibly fast, but two, at such a large scale where you're working with real estate agents across the country. So I'm really, at this point, this podcast is going to be more about picking your brain and really trying to extrapolate a lot of the common questions that come out, because you're helping me with my virtual assistant game as well. And I want to make sure that a lot of the conversations that we have offline, we're able to have them on here, because it's going to help a lot of people as they're making that transition from, I'm exhausted every single day because I just can't take another transaction. Well, that's there's going to be the prime candidates that could really benefit from this podcast. So what would you say is, when it comes to real estate agents, as they're working with the virtual assistant, whether they're in your program, which I'd like for you to cover as well, or working with the with the virtual assistant anywhere else, what would you say is the biggest opportunity that agents aren't leveraging when they're working with virtual assistants? What would you say they leave on the table?
Yeah, I think the majority of people who hire virtual assistants at this point are hiring virtual assistants, and I'm not saying that it's wrong, but we're talking about where they're leaving money on the table, right? They hire them to do mundane tasks like post just regular social media posts, right? That aren't going to necessarily generate business, but maybe keep your Facebook page alive. I think that if you're going to hire a virtual assistant, one, either you know how to run Facebook ads, two, they've been trained by somebody who knows how to run Facebook ads effectively. that is where you're making money, or any type of ad, for example, YouTube ad, Google ad. You want your virtual assistant to be able to do that and then be able to do follow-up. If you can get a virtual assistant to do that, then Hyman, you and I were talking about numbers. I don't know if we want to go into detail about these numbers, but we were saying if you can get them to close one transaction, then they cover your cost you cover the cost of a virtual assistant for an entire year, because your virtual assistant is roughly going to cost about $500 to $600 a month. So one $200,000 contract is $6,000 roughly of income, GCI. One $250,000 transaction is about $7,500 of income, or GCI. So you automatically pay for your virtual assistant for the year by having them help you close one deal. So I always tell people when they come in, especially if they're getting a virtual assistant that is going to be their own personal virtual assistant, that's what they should focus on. And then you can help them focus on other things that you want them to do in your business, newsletters, so forth and so on. Right. So if you do the math, you want to focus on money making activities. Have them do lead generation, have them do follow-up, even if they go follow up with your old leads, right? To get a deal closed. And then you feel comfortable, you're at ease because you know that that VA is paid for. So that's how I would look at the process, as far as where are people missing out, leaving money on the table, not having a VA that does lead generation and follow up to close a transaction as soon as possible.
Joseph, something that really stood out to me, and this was kind of I think we're kind of building up to this podcast just without even knowing it. We've been talking about virtual assistants for quite a while because that's your business. But something that you mentioned this is probably a few weeks ago at this point, as we were preparing, you're walking me through what's your time worth. You're walking, as we're talking about numbers, as we're talking about math, you were walking me through, well, are you able to do the job? Well, obviously I could do let's just, without getting into too much specifics, let's just say, are you able to edit your thumbnail? Well, of course, obviously.
Yeah.
Is it going to come out better than if a professional did it? No, of course not. Obviously.
No.
So what's it going to cost you in terms of, if it takes you an hour to make this thumbnail, it's going to be subpar. How much did you lose in either GCI or in billable hours, whatever the case may be? What's your time worth? And it wasn't until I saw it through that lens that really opened me up to where I'll gladly pay somebody $7 to give me a much better result. So again, goes back to the whole, you focus on the revenue generating side. I focus more on, I'm keeping what I already have, right? So I'm saving money. So it's a subtle way of saying that I'm cheap, guys. Okay, I'm cheap. All right, let's get it out there.
Penny pincher.
And there's nothing wrong with that. So
nope.
Until you
the rich stay rich by keeping.
Go ahead.
Until you say the rich stay. Go ahead.
No, I'm done. Your turn.
The rich stay rich by keeping their money, right? And they get richer by making more money. That's the secret.
Yeah. And it wasn't until you walked me through that, and we went through the numbers earlier, right before we hit record, of some other projects that are going on. It wasn't until I saw it through that lens that it made a ton of sense. So if you're not going to do the task, whether that's cold calling, whether that's emailing, whether that's making sure that your promos are going out, making sure that there's something that is going to your point, produce income. If you're not going to do that consistently, or if you're not going to do that well, and somebody else can do that in your place while you focus on the next point that you want to get to, the next milestone that you want to get into your business, that's super powerful. That until you realize that, and it took me a while. So I guess at this point I'm speaking more to myself. So until you see it through that lens, you're just, I'm not gonna say you're not gonna get it, but it's gonna be difficult for you to shell out that $500 a month, because you're gonna see it as an expense instead of an investment.
Yeah. Apologies. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people will look at it, right, as an expense, and you have to understand that, and Cheyenne made a good point here, right? We're talking about leveraging your time, right? You are essentially trying to duplicate who you are, for a lack of better terms, right? And once you're able to do that, then you start to increase your business over and over and over again. I made a post the other day, and I think it was like Club Wealth Real Estate Group. I don't post in there very often, but every once in a while I want to get people's feedback to understand what's going on. And that group, there's a lot of people that make a lot of money, right? So My question was, what pros and cons do you see of hiring a transaction coordinator? And the point of this, I'll get to to why I'm saying this in just a second. Everybody but two people said pretty much everybody said there are no cons, there are only pros. Why do you think people said that? And again, these are people who make money, right? The reason that they're saying that is because they know for a fact that the more time that they can get somebody else to do the work that they need them to do, and they don't have to do that work, the more opportunities they have to talk to people who are going to make them more money, right? So if somebody else is doing the work that they would normally be doing, a transaction coordinator, then they can have more conversations with people who are buying or selling houses. Okay. So whenever we talk about virtual assistants, it's the same process. Yes, it's an investment to have somebody go and do this stuff and possibly train them to do certain things. But if they're doing your transaction coordinating, they're doing your newsletters, they're doing your outreach, they're doing your follow-up for you until the person's ready to buy or sell a house. Think about all the other things that you could be doing, right? Besides doing those particular things. I think I saw one thing that said one contract by a transaction coordinator saves 16 hours. Now imagine having a full-time person doing all these other things and how many hours that saves. If one transaction coordinator saves 16 hours, imagine what a virtual assistant can do for your business if they're doing all these other things for you, right? So you have to look at it. Yes, it's an investment. Yes, it's money out of your pocket, but when it comes to how many X's can you X that money, right? I think it's exponential, right? 100%. I don't know if I should do some simple math to show people what that really means, Jaime, or if I should hold off on telling the real numbers on what that looks like.
If you think you can pull off the math on the fly,
I cannot. That's why I have my computer next to me.
Because I have my phone preoccupied right now, so I couldn't bail you out of the simple math. So hold on. We may not want to lose street cred like that.
500 times 14 is 7,000. Is that the right math? Yeah. And then you multiply that by, on average, I hold about 10 virtual assistants for myself. That's $70,000. Okay. So divided by 70,000, 1, 2, 3. So for me, the way I look at it, I have almost 4x'd my quote unquote expense, my investment, right? So those of you who want to do the math, you can basically multiply 70,000 times 4, right? If you really want to know what the math looks like.
That's awesome. That's brave of you to do the math too.
I'm an extremely transparent human being, right? So, I mean, as far as like to getting to the point of what we're talking about, Cheyenne says, show the math. To getting to the point that we're talking about, so maybe it costs you $500 or $600 a month. But think about all the things that you're not paying for. Somebody doing Facebook ads for you. That's usually about $1,000 a month. Somebody writing newsletters or a company writing newsletters. That's anywhere from $100 to $300 a month. Somebody doing follow-up. That's usually $5 to $7 per lead, right? You have one person doing all of these things for you. So you do the subtraction, 500 from all those numbers, the amount of money that you can make on top of that, besides just the savings, because Jaime, you're a saver. So now I'm talking from the saving aspect.
Thanks.
Right. And then now we're talking about my side of things where I like to make money. I'm saving and I'm making money. It's just a win-win, right? If done correctly.
It's that opportunity cost. You're absolutely right when it comes to, making money. And something else that we really wanted to drive home as we were doing the show notes before hopping on was really comparing it to the alternative, right? Yeah. Comparing it to, all right, let's just say you're snowed under and you're drowning. What's going to happen? You're not going to make it to that next level. You're going to be unfulfilled, all that other stuff. I don't want to get off Dr. Phil on you, but there's just going to be a lot of repercussions from that. So you're not growing. If you're not growing, then you're dying basically, because you're not going to stay the same. So that's one. But then two, think of the alternative or how you used to have to do this, which was hire somebody and pray to God that they weren't lying to you in the interview. And you invest all this time, all this capital to hire them, and you're training them hands-on. It's just an absolute pain. But if you go down the virtual assistance route, there is some very high quality work that's being done by virtual assistants everywhere. It doesn't, there's some people that are a little bit hesitant to go across the border, whether that's Mexico, whether that's the Philippines, whether that's India, whether that's X, Y, and Z, wherever
Yeah.
that apprehension came from. I'm not going to get into that, but you
Yeah.
have that reservation, but they have a lot. And I hate to say they and just categorize that way, but there's just so much talent out there that is available
Yeah.
to you at, a drop of a hat. It's absolutely
Yeah.
there. There's somebody that can do so much. To your point, those 4 items that you rattled off, there are a lot of people that can do those 4 items that you just mentioned and do them well.
Probably better than most of us do them, to be honest.
Probably
with you.
better than most of us. Absolutely.
I can say that specifically about myself, right? So I think one thing to also note in this process as we talk about hiring virtual assistants to scale your business to over an extra 100K is you have to think about what it would cost in the US to hire somebody that is even close to capable to what a trained virtual assistant can do. In the US, you're going to be paying somebody at least $2,000 to $3,000 per month. And then after 90 days, then you have to, if I'm not mistaken, Jaime, you can correct me on this, then you have to give them insurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we're talking, $2,000 to $3,000, let's call it about $3,500 on average to hire somebody in the US to do the same type of work that we're talking about. Or you pay somebody $500 to $600 per month, and that $500 to $600 per month is going to carry a lot further, and you can hire 3 or 4 people if you have that budget. I'm not saying that you have to hire that many people, but you could do that. We have a couple questions, Jaime, coming in. I'm going to go ahead and answer. Rich Kim says, do you use any training tools for your VA? How much time do you use to train a VA to be fully ready? Rich, that's a great question. So one of the things that, we use several tools. One of the tools that we use is Asana. I essentially use Asana. I was trained how to use Asana myself. I go in, I create all the training material, hours and hours of training material. And then we have live training where our head VAs, we have 2 head VAs, they actually go in and they will then live train the VAs. So usually it takes anywhere from 7 to 14 days of just straight training. And then on top of that, as the VA is working in whatever agent's account as their main, if they're a personal VA or if they're a part-time VA, the VAs are also assessing them. So to answer your as far as time is concerned, we're talking 7 to 21 days of training, right? That's both learning, then doing, which I think are both very, very important in the process. So Rich, hopefully that answers your question. I don't have an hour specifically, but it's essentially 8 hours a day for 7 to 21 days, right? So Cheyenne just told us, Jaime, my last assistant was $50K a year. And Cheyenne, I don't know. I'm sure your assistant was great. They're probably deserving the $50K a year. But I bet you could probably hire a strong virtual assistant that could do just about the same thing that your previous assistant was doing at $6,000 a year, roughly. So you could basically hire 50 divided by 6. Somebody do the math on that. That's about 8 assistants for that price. All right.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So you could hire 8 assistants to probably do what your assistant was doing times 8, right? And I think this is the kind of a wake-up call for those of us that do spend money in marketing. We have to understand that just because somebody in the US does a certain thing and we think they're fantastic at it, doesn't mean that there's not somebody else that's out there, right? I think it's just really getting your mind wrapped around not having to have somebody in office. And I think with COVID happening, Jaime, that allows people to understand that, you know what, because they're not in my office, or because now I'm not in my office, I can have somebody that doesn't have to be there, right? And now they can be, I don't want to say they're not cheaper people. I don't think that's the right word. I think they're high quality work for just less money, right? So I think you got to be very careful using the word cheap, right?
100%. Joseph, before we go on to other questions, because there's a few, we posted this everywhere. So there's some YouTube questions, there's some Facebook questions, and there's questions on the pages that we dropped them. So as we start navigating through these questions, I think it's appropriate to bring in our sponsor, the non-existent one. Just kidding. We don't have a sponsor. So we have to say that this podcast is sponsored by the Agent Lead Source podcast. So it's sponsoring itself. And
Yeah.
we do want to invite you to go to Apple Podcast and 5-star review us. That's going to really help us out. If you want to be part of the conversation, which I know that you do, you want to check us out here at 8 p.m. Central. Sometimes we start a little bit late depending on when Pat gets us online, but you're going to get the notification. So make sure that you join our notification squad, connect with Joseph, connect with myself. Our contact information will be linked down below. So do us a huge favor, 5-star review us if we earned it over on Apple Podcast. If we didn't earn it, we don't want to hear from you. But if you want to be part of the conversation, we're on Facebook. We're live streaming on Facebook, by the way, and we're on YouTube as well. So find the Agent Lead Source podcast. There's going to be these questions. So I just wanted, for those people that are listening to the podcast and have only listened to the podcast, this is where we're coming up with the questions. It's not like we're making these up. So if you want to be part of the conversation, drop a question, interact with us. We'd love to have that. So I wanted to make sure that we made that available. Joseph, there's a lot of VA places, and this is from somebody in another group. So Alex, thanks for being here. Where do you guys recommend to get one? So the question, Joseph, again, where do you guys recommend to get a VA?
Yeah, so I think that's that's a very good question, by the way, Alex. Thank you for asking the question. So there are lots of places you can go to get VAs. Upwork, you can go to, I think it's like hirethephilippines.com or something. You can just Google that, something like that. I think there are a lot of good places out there. I think the problem is you have to be very careful. If you don't have somebody that has quote unquote boots on the ground that's in the Philippines, that is actually hiring and vetting and interviewing people. We have, for example, we do at least a 3-step interview process, right, for ours. And the reason we do that is because of all the stories that we heard. I'll give you an example, Alex. One of the stories that we heard was one VA said she had a twin sister, and that her twin sister also would like to work for this company. The company, because they didn't do interviews and didn't ask for both sisters to be on at the same time and all this stuff, right? Like, you just have to be smart about it. Hired that person 2 times, the same person, didn't have a twin sister, and paid them for a year of work. So she made 2 times the amount of money for 1 year's worth of work by being one person. Now, what I would like to say about that, one, that's very, very obviously it's not a genius. It's bad. It's a bad thing. But also, imagine how much work she was able to accomplish if she could prove through her work that she was doing work for 2 people. Right. I think the only reason she got caught is because she probably sent a message as her sister or whatever in the wrong time or something. But think about that. She was able to accomplish, one, proving that she was 2 people because the amount of work she was able to do, and 2, be able to do that for an entire year. So anyway, point being, we make sure that we interview multiple times. We ask several questions, and we still miss some people, right? Like there's certain things that we miss, but for the most part, most of our VAs that I've hired, I think I've had 2 VAs that we've hired. No, out of the VAs that I've personally gone through and our team has picked, I think we've only had 1 that has left, right? And I think that's a credit to us, because not to us, to my team, not just me, right? To my team, because they actually vet these VAs, these other people, and they know their personalities and whether they're telling the truth about things. And they also check where they go to school and all these things, right? Point being, Alex, there are lots of places out there. I think the thing you have to ask is, how are they being vetted? And if they're being vetted, how many can I interview to make sure that I'm getting the right person, right? Because you may not hire the right person on the first try. Hopefully, Alex,
we're getting a lot of comments about the twin sister, OMG. We have
that's crazy story.
Let's do some shout outs to location. So as you're listening, let us know where you're listening from. We have Kenneth, St. Lucia in the Caribbean. We have NYC in the house. We have Katy, Texas. Christopher Alvarez, thank you for being here. We have where did that one go? I saw NYC, we said that one. Caribbean, we said that one. Katy, we said that one. All right. We really need to rein in these groups. I can't.
And if you're watching on Facebook, we have people from Florida. I think we saw some others from Miami. So wherever you are in the world, if you're watching right now, please feel free to comment. Let us know where you're coming from. The Mortgage Plug from New Jersey, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So thank you very much. Benson, Aaliyah.
Los Angeles.
Hello, guys. Lolita, thank you. Cheyenne is from Charleston, South Carolina. I would say go Gamecocks, but I played them whenever I played college football and they beat us, so I'm not going to say that, Cheyenne. So, but welcome to the call.
Joseph, I forget about that former life of yours.
Yeah.
That's the so I guess in this podcast, you're the jock and I'm the nerd. I just realized that.
I'd like to be
Podcast
classified as a
over.
nerd, though.
Podcast over.
Podcast over.
It's not even funny anymore.
Hey, we can trade places. We can trade places, Jaime. You can have my shoulders and my lower right leg if you want. I'll take your nerd body any day because this body is beat up, man.
Because you know I have physical therapy tomorrow at 7 a.m. That's not fair. The books didn't help. Joseph, before this completely goes off the rails, because it already went there. So as we're going through some exercises of, one of the biggest struggles for people that are very type A like myself is letting things go, right?
Yeah.
And one of those is like, oh, I can do it better. Well, yes, you probably can. However, you're not going to be able to do that consistently, if you will. So one of the exercises that has really been helpful, and you've helped me with this as well, is really map out what are you doing right now. Map it out, map out and don't try to cheat. So there's a good way of doing this. So map out everything that you're doing. Map it out what you're actually consistently doing. So what you're doing now. And then also in another list, it can be the same Excel sheet. You don't have to create an entire new file. Create what you wish was being done consistently. So those are two differences. So that's why I'm saying you don't have to cheat. This is you're cheating yourself. So what you're doing now, and then list out what you want to be doing. And you identify them, you categorize them based off of, are these time savers for me or are these revenue generators for the business? And then other categories that are meaningful for you. So that exercise has really helped me out on when is the right time to bring on that next virtual assistant. So once you have that, back to your point, the whole training comes into play. So you start thinking ahead and start documenting what you're doing. Start documenting, all right, so whenever I go in here and I check my campaigns, these are the numbers that I need to make sure that are hit. If that doesn't, then something needs to happen. So it may sound like, oh, well, I'm just, it's no big deal. I can log into Facebook ads every day and it's going to take me 15 seconds at most. That's not 15 seconds, Joseph. That's not 15 seconds. So you getting into the system, analyzing it, getting out of that state into another state, you're talking way more than 15 seconds, but also that is one task of many that you should be doing as a business. So you're going to find at least, and I'm just ballparking it here, you're going to at least find 2 to 4 hours that you can work with a virtual assistant if you know how to transition out of it. Let the ego go. And that's more for me.
Well, I think it's for anybody that's type A personality, right? Anybody that runs a business, which is probably going to end up being most real estate agents who want to control things. It is hard to let go, right? I didn't let go for 3 years. I just give you, an idea of my personality. I didn't let go for 3 years. The minute that I decided to let go, or the time that I guess I would say the month or so, wherever I started transitioning and having my virtual assistants, that this year I have over doubled my income, right? Again, I am a very type A personality. I like to control things, but as soon as I let go and let somebody else do it, I doubled my income. I want to repeat that. I doubled my income by letting somebody else do the work that I shouldn't have been doing, so I could focus on money making activities. So I think it's really important for people to just take a step back, do what Jaime said, write down the things that you do every single day, look at those look at those activities, write down the ones that you think are redundant or that you do every single day, and let somebody else do those things. Right? It makes life so much easier. Cheyenne has some comments here. She says it's also quality of life is super important, not just more money. Yes, that's also important. Spending more time with family, spending more time with friends, spending more time in the leisurely things that you enjoy doing. Imagine being at a baseball game, soccer game, football game, movie, opera, whatever you like doing, sitting at home reading a book, and you get a text message that says, "Hey, just call this lead. They want to talk to you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Here's the information about their what they're looking to do. Buy or sell," right? And you're like, "Oh, cool. Tomorrow, that's what I'll be doing." Right? Like, I'm talking to this person at 10 a.m. I have my breakfast. I'm gonna talk to this person in the morning. You did nothing.
Yeah.
You did nothing. The virtual assistant
As
did everything,
opposed to
right?
being
So that's pretty cool.
reactionary, right? As opposed to getting
Yeah.
that lead from your KV Core, from your any other CRM that you're using, and then like, oh crap, we'll have to pause everything and call, right? We know the 5-minute
Yeah.
rule. Make sure that you call. That's just such a different way of looking at it. But as we're going through, we have a killer in the house, and we just got demonetized, by the way. The Cheyenne closed 58 deals. That was a cell phone, wasn't it? Dang it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to bleep that out. So Cheyenne closed 58 deals first year, leverage. Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
She's saying here that I started day one with the full-time assistant. Boom. That's huge. That's awesome. Congratulations.
And I think that's so hard for people to understand that concept, right? Like, leveraging your time, other people's time, to make more money. If you go watch any videos on rich people or wealthy people, rich is not the right word, because there are a lot of people who win the lottery. If you go watch videos on wealthy people who have built themselves up, you will see that they have teams. Even if they say they're doing something by themselves, they typically have a team behind them, right? That are doing things. And whenever I say team, it doesn't have to be like these rock stars every single time. It's just taking things off your plate to allow you to do more, right?
You know, it's funny, Joseph, that the people that actually have a large team behind them, they try the hardest to make it look like it's them. And then the people that don't have an infrastructure, they try their hardest to make it look like there's a big team. That is so spot on. That should be a book, right? That should be a book.
That is so spot on.
I'm gonna clean that up, and I'm gonna make an inspirational quote about that.
Yeah, people who have curly hair want straight hair, and people who have straight hair want curly hair. People who don't have a team try to do everything they can to say they have a team, and people who have a team are like, "Nah, I do it all by myself." That's so true, right? I don't do that. I'm like, dude, I got a team. Like, I'm extremely honest and transparent. Like, there's no way I could do the things that we're doing right now without my team, and I can give you all their names if you need to know. It's crazy, but that's so true, man.
Joseph, something, and you may have actually you do have more insight into this, and this is something that I've seen in the comment sections. I've done virtual assistant videos on my channel before, and you know, one of the questions that I posed in the video was, where are you getting your virtual assistant country wise? Where are they? In time and time again, it's the Philippines. Why do you think that is? Is there such a strong education culture there? Is there just such a how does it happen that the epicenter of the virtual assistant world is in the Philippines?
Yeah, I think there are multiple things that have attributed to having virtual assistants in the Philippines and it being such a strong base for getting virtual assistants. One, I think with, back in the day when all the wars were happening in Asia, Vietnam War, so forth and so on, the Philippines became a hotspot for guys to go hang out, if you will, drink beers, party, have a good time. I think that has helped with the English, and then English being a part of the education system. And then as far as educated human beings, majority of virtual assistants that are out there have one, a college degree, and two, maybe a master's degree, if not a couple, right? So whenever you're talking about quality of understanding things and maintaining your education and your knowledge base, I think that's why the Philippines is so strong for a location to get virtual assistants. Because you have, like, for example, on my team, I think I have 4 or 5 teachers, meaning they were teachers, they went to school, a couple of these teachers have masters. They went to school, they taught other people, and then they also got a master's in education, which means they're extremely educated, right? So I think that's why there's that push, or there has always been that push to have VAs in the Philippines. I'm not saying that that's the only place, right? Because I think South America has some great virtual assistants as well. And then on top of those 2 points, then it becomes cost, the cost of living in the Philippines versus the cost of living in the United States is much, much lower. So $500 to somebody in the Philippines, I don't know the exact math on it, but that's like, I don't know, maybe a couple $1,000s here in the US, right? So you have to also take that into account as well.
A lot of facets to it. A lot of facets to it. I didn't. I counted for the education piece, if you will, but there's just so much to it. So that's awesome. Thank you for providing clarity, Joseph. I think it's appropriate right now because we do pride ourselves in the action based content. So you made a video, I would say, what was it, 2 days ago, about something that we shared about here when we were talking about additional revenue streams for real estate agents. And we talk a lot about taking action. And I want you to just kind of share a little bit about what you've had going on in the past several weeks since that podcast, because it's leveraging, one, that we're doing what we're saying that we're doing, but two, it ties in to the virtual assistant aspect. So can you walk us through the program that you've created and how people can actually have access to it? Because I think that's a great entry point for those people that are looking for virtual assistants. They've been convicted thanks to this podcast, and thank you for the 5-star review, by the way. And they're convicted that I think that this is a great place for them to explore the solution that you have.
Yeah. So what Jaime is talking about is, I think it was 3 shows ago, maybe 2 or 3 shows ago, maybe 3. We discussed ways for agents to make more money. And one of those ways was as a transaction coordinator, right? If you don't love going out and showing houses or going to listing appointments. And we said, you can even start a transaction coordinating team. And I like to prove things out. So rather than sitting back and waiting for somebody to do it, I said, I'm gonna do it. I have a team. I brought in Jessica, who is actually our main trainer now. She's actually a transaction coordinator in San Antonio. She was one of my clients previously and decided to go transaction coordinating route. She's been doing that for 1.5 years, maybe 2 years now. And so I partnered with her and said, hey, we'd love for you to train the team. You and I can start this business together and grow it, right? So I said, rather than sitting back and waiting for somebody to do it, let's create another 6-figure business, minimum 6-figure business. And so that's what we did. And so using a virtual assistant or using virtual assistants to do that and having somebody that is actually in that role allows us to now utilize, leverage, create more Jessicas and also help more people along the way, right? So Jaime, for us, those people that are out there, they're going, hey, how do I use a virtual assistant? You can use a virtual transaction coordinator, right, in your business. And that's kind of why we went that route, is because we're going, can we train them to do exactly what Jessica does? Jessica pretty much is a 5-star transaction coordinator, right? Can we also get these people to do it? And so what we did was we said, we're going to offer our transaction coordinating services for free, at least for the first transaction, to prove that our transaction coordinators, our virtual transaction coordinators are as good as an in-person, quote unquote, in-city transaction coordinator. So if anybody, we're only in Texas right now because we want to make sure we know that contract in and out before we move into other states. But very soon after that's done, the first probably 10 contracts that we do as a team, then we'll move into, and obviously getting reviews and all those things, testimonials, then we'll start moving to other states and testing out other states. So this will very quickly become a 6-figure plus business.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So do you want if somebody's interested, somebody's in Texas, the market that you're that you've opened up so far, if somebody's interested right now, do they message you? Do they find you on Facebook, send you an email? What would be the best place? Yeah,
find me on Facebook, send me a message, and then I'll connect you with Jessica, and then you'll hop on a call with Jessica, and Jessica will tell you about her past, her experience, and then from there, you guys will work on the next contract together and using our virtual assistants, and Jessica will manage that process. We have tools. Jessica has all the tools and everything that you would normally use so that you can track your transaction as well. And it's just, again, saving time. It's just like being smart about your time, right? But yeah, any Texas agents that are interested in having a transaction coordinator for free, or if you've never tried one, reach out to me, send me a message, or if you're a contact of Jaime's, feel free to reach out to Jaime, and then Jaime and I can work on something as well.
Awesome. Awesome. So folks, I want to really highlight something. Free. So that's what I really need to highlight for you. So what do you have to lose outside of hours that you gain back? So
16
this is
hours.
there you go.
16
Well,
hours. Yeah.
there you go. That so it's quantifiable.
Yeah.
So you have a great resource. This is that part of the rah speech where you take action, right? This is the time that you go out of the locker room and go out and, if in Joseph's case, go out and lose to the Gamecocks. But in other people,
Thanks.
in other
In a
situations,
bowl game, by the way, I just want to be very clear. In a bowl game.
but in other situations you win, right? So there's that. There's, what do you have to lose? You learned about virtual assistants today, or you really got convicted for that virtual assistants at this point. So try it out with the transaction. See if it's the right fit for you. If not, try something else. So as we're getting ready for the dismount, Joseph, I want to go through something that I want to share with the audience. Part with one thing. If you feel that the transaction is just too much, that it's going to fall apart without you. By the way, it's not going to fall apart without you. But if you feel that that's what's going to happen, then don't let that go. Let's just say, I'll give you another example. If you want to have somebody else schedule all of your appointments, so for whatever reason, whether you have all these buyers, sellers, whatever, an appointment setter, do that. Offload something in your business that you can do without, or you feel that you can do without. And realistically, you can offload a lot of different things, but offload something that you can part ways with if you're having a hard time with doing that, and take action on that. See it through for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, to where it actually you see a return on your time. 1 day is not enough. 1 week is not enough. I venture to guess that. I would venture to say that even 1 month is not enough, because there's going to be some items that instantly you gain your time back, you gain some money, and it's fantastic, and you're off to the races. But with anything that's meaningful, a meaningful change, it takes some time to add up, especially since you're new. You're not going to have the Joseph Gonzalez unless you go with him, which would be fantastic. But if you try to do this on your own, you're not going to have the experience that he has, hiring so many different people at this point, having all systems behind him. So you're learning as you go. So give yourself that opportunity, give yourself permission to earmark a certain amount that you're going to just, all right, this is my 3 months virtual assistant pilot. This is me ending 2020 the right way, as there's a lot of people that are, going into the holidays. I know that with COVID, it's going to look a little bit different, but give yourself that opportunity in your business. Worst thing that happens is you just don't go through with that, but you didn't have to go out and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You didn't have to go out and do an entire build out on a leased building or anything like that. All you have to do is just, all right, it's not going to work. Bye. So I just want to give people permission to start with one thing and then try it out. Hopefully it leads into some others. So those are my parting thoughts, Joseph. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's good, right? Like, you have to let go of something. Here's what I'll do, Jaime. I think, every once in a while on our show, I like to do something fun and give something away, right? You give away great Facebook courses and stuff. I love it. I give away different crazy tips that I think are pretty excellent. Obviously, one of them helped me start another 6-figure business. But I'm going to do this. Anybody who wants to test out a virtual assistant for 5 hours, meaning either 1 hour per day for 5 days, 5 business days, or 2.5 hours, or however you want to break that down, I'm going to give anybody who wants to try out a virtual assistant. You have to have tasks that you want them to do. Send me a message, and I will give you 5 hours. My team will give you 5 hours for free. 5 hours of virtual assistant services for free. So just send me a message. Don't comment here, because I'm not going to go back and read these right now. But I want the deal. Thank you, Jaime. But send me a message. If you're watching this now, you're watching this later, send me a message. We will give you 5 hours of virtual assistant services for free. Right.
By the way, it's no longer available because I just messaged Joseph Gonzalez. I want that deal. So
we have lots of virtual assistants. We have lots of virtual assistants, Jaime. So they're gonna be okay.
Awesome.
So, but yeah,
that's generous.
I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that for our viewers / listeners. But you have to message me via Facebook to be able to get that deal.
The barriers are gone. The friction is gone. What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? You're not going to lose the deal. I mean, we're not making guarantees. Again, we don't want to get sued, but you're not going to lose the deal. It's not going to fall apart. This is something that has such an upside that you'd be crazy not to try it. You'd be absolutely wildly insane not to try it. Even if it's not with, which I highly encourage you that it is Joseph, but even if it's not with Joseph, this is a part of the business that's going to help you grow. So if you have a hard time parting with whatever it is that you have a hard time with virtual assistants, guess what? You're going to have that in real people as well. So you're going to have a hard time hiring the W-2. So a quick math that I used to do whenever I was in the healthcare and it was hiring people left and right was every single employee, as they're coming W-2 employees, whatever their salary is, I times it by 1.25 to allocate to pay for the FICA and all that other fun stuff that you need to pay. So the unemployment and everything else. So here you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about the taxes. Well, I'm not giving tax representations, but you don't have to worry about that aspect of it. So what do you have to lose? Yeah,
absolutely. Try it. It'll change your life. I'd say that. It'll change your business life.
Awesome. Joseph, did we do a fair enough job? Did we give enough value to the people to get a 5-star, do you think?
I think so. I think if you listen to the show just now, I think we gave people a lot of ideas of how to add an extra 6 figures to your business utilizing virtual assistants. We told you what tools we currently use. I told you some of the tasks they currently do for us. The main things you take away, which are lead generation and follow-up. I think that's pretty much worth a 5-star. And if you need, and we're also giving away 5 hours to each person who messages us to get a virtual assistant. You get that for free. So virtual assistant work for 5 hours for free. That's pretty. I think that's 5 hours for 5 stars. We'll say that.
Boom! I like that. I'm gonna put that on a shirt. Awesome. All right. Well, folks, this has been the Agent Lead Source podcast. This is how you leverage virtual assistants. You've been listening from an incredible expert, and that person is not me. That person's to probably your right or left. I don't know. So that is Joseph. Absolutely take him up on his offer. You won't regret it. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Later, guys. Thanks.